Movement. Hello, everybody. And we are going to start right on time. So, welcome, everyone. It is so exciting to have New York in the house, Florida in the house. And tonight is going to be a night to remember because I know we are going to walk away with some amazing nuggets. I know we have so many more people that are going to be joining us any second now. But anyway, wanted to welcome you guys to Make Money Monday. Make Money Monday is a mentorship platform where we bring the best of our knowledge, our experience, those life lessons that we cannot buy anywhere else, those golden nuggets, those inside scoops that, you can only get by walking this journey called life. So I'm very happy to have all of you that have joined us so far. And I know other people are going to be joining us, but I want to respect the time of my very VIP, special, close to my heart, dear friend and customer, and just someone that, it's crazy how life connects us with people and we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. So I want to introduce to everyone one of New York's top investors. Someone that has been investing in New York real estate. If you play in New York, you are a mega player as far as I'm concerned, right? So, this gentleman actually, life blessed me with this connection and getting to know him for many years now and seeing how he has evolved and grown and how he just took the pandemic and turned it into his launching pad, and now he is all over social media blowing it up, turning up the fire and just showing the behind the scenes of the life of an investor, a life that he has designed, a life that he has just taken and designed. And I feel honored to be able to call him my friend, to be able to know that we can lock arms and now together we are collaborating and contributing from one end of the East Coast of the United States to the other. So without any further ado, I want to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. My very good friend, investor, a rock star in New York City investments, Daniel Borrero. Welcome, Dan. How you
Oh,
doing tonight?
thank you for having me, Lucy, and thank you for the acclimates. I'm gonna have my wife watch this so I can remind her and say, "Watch, Lucy, see what Lucy says about me."
This is who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
Thank you again for
So
having
good.
me on, and I actually am excited to be here. Lucy and I came up with this idea a couple of weeks ago, right, Lucy? and and
Yes.
and I don't even remember how we even came up what we were discussing, but it was just a brainstorming idea, and I think it's a fabulous idea. And I'm here to answer any questions and explain the mindset of a real estate investor.
And that's the thing, guys. We all get into real estate. And I was thinking about our conversation tonight, and here's the beauty. Anybody can say, I'm an investor. Anybody can say, I am in real estate. But, do we have the right mindset? So I hope to tap into not just the realtors that are here, but also the aspiring investors, because having the wrong mindset, even if you are an investor already, is only going to set you up for a setback. And so I think that's the power of having someone like Dan here with us today, who is a mega player in the city of New York, outside of New York, in the suburbs. He's in the city, around the city, outside the city. So let's kick it off with, how long have you been doing this, Dan? Let's tell the world, because I'm going to be sharing this with not the nation, but my friends abroad in South America and Europe, because, you know, I think it's important, especially right now, in the world that we are living, to learn from each other, to grow with each other, to leverage the power of collaborative, experience and knowledge. So, how long have you been investing in the Big Apple?
So I started in 1989, but there's a story behind that, and if you don't mind, I'll give it to you. I'll try to make it as quick as possible for the sake of time. So, um, I was my parents came here from Puerto Rico, of course. As many people, as most of us, our parents come with nothing, right? Um, Having said that, I had a severe learning disability, and I was put into special ed system in the city of New York, the Board of Educational system. And thank God for having parents that were extremely supportive, although the system itself was not. I was always angry, right? I was always angry that I wasn't getting the acclimates that the smart kids like group one was getting, right? The kids that were in group one in the same class, although I knew I could do that. But it was a life lesson because it taught me that I was never going to be able to make the money I wanted to make in corporate America. I was never going to be paid the value that I was able to contribute. So from day one, I knew I had to be an entrepreneur. How I was going to do that, I wasn't sure until I would say high school. My dad had a, a bodega, a deli in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, and the landlords would come when they were working in their buildings with their men for lunch, and they'd be speaking to my dad, and I was very attentive to listening to everything they had to say, and they were inspiring to me, right, in the sense that I saw how they were taking care of their families, how they were making a living, and then of course over the years I saw how their properties appreciated. So before I even went to college, and I'm going to tell you something. The only reason I went to college was because there was only one college that accepted me. So I never even really went to even look at the school because I knew it was the only school that accepted me, right? Um, so having said that, I was sitting one day in the freshman year that the RAs, the residential assistants, always gather all the students and they on the floor trying to get them to know each other, and they were asking each other what their majors were. Most of the kids didn't know what their majors were going to be, right? With the actually 99% of them didn't, with the exception of myself and maybe two more. And they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I'm going to be a real estate investor, and they were pretty much giggled and laughed at me, right? Um, so 4 years after I graduated from college, I bought my first property in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. It was a two-family house in on Adelphi Street that to this day I still own, and I probably will never sell. I paid 72,000 for it, and I just got offered a couple of months ago, even though there's not a for sale sign on it, 2.2 million. If that tells you
Wow.
anything, yeah. So
Wow.
that was the beginning of my real estate investing in 1989. Um, and then from there, I bought my second property in 1990 in an area in Brooklyn that's called Park Slope, Brooklyn. But I bought it on the outskirts of Park Slope. So Park Slope was a very affluent area, but it was more like 7th Avenue. And I bought on 5th Avenue, which was not as desirable. But I knew eventually it would come down, right? Those 2 blocks, it would have to migrate its way down. So I guess the reason I'm telling you this is because I always play for the long run. I never play for the short run, except on my fix and flip side of the business. So anything on a hold, I always play on the long term end. So, you know, I'll give you another, and I'm not telling you this to be boisterous. I'm just telling you all this for you to get an idea of where the real money's at
Mhm.
in the real estate business. The real money's not in the fix and flips or the short term holds. It's on the long term. So we were into that property for 235 when we bought it. My father and I, we over the years we've probably put 300,000 into it. The property's worth about $6 million. It's only a couple of blocks away from the Barclays Center, which I'm sure you guys have seen all over the news lately. So having said that, I met my brother-in-law through my sister brought my brother-in-law, got married to him. She lives in Miami, and that's how I actually met Lucy Quinones, is through Alex Agrusia. And he kept talking to me about it. After we bought that second property, we kept buying more property, right? And then he kept talking to me about this woman named Lucy Quinones. You got to go out to Cape Coral. You got to go out to Cape Coral. And after a while, I says, okay, let me just go, because my father was also telling me, listen, Alex is doing well. He's he's got something here. Go talk to this woman. So my father and I took a trip out there, and we bought properties for like $3,000 from Lucy. And I remember her saying to me, when we were driving, we kept driving, right, Lucy, for about 20, 30 minutes, and there were no houses. And you must have been going 40, 50 miles an hour on this road. And I was like, and you were taking me to go see a school, a high school that was just being built. And I looked at you and I says, why in God's name would anybody build here, right? And you went through the entire process of explaining to me, um, step by step, what was coming and how you knew what was coming. And then you even went so far as to set up meetings with government officials where we were actually, you had us actually confirm what you were saying. So you literally were teaching me what I should be asking other realtors at that moment in time. And that's why to this day I still say Lucy was one of my first mentors. Um, so and to this day I still use those lessons that you taught me then. I don't even think you realized you were teaching me at the time. Um, so we started buying land in Florida, and it got to the point where we were probably moving anywhere between 1,500, about 1,000 to 1,500 lots per month, up until about 2008. And in 2008, we then what we were doing was taking all that money with the flip side, and then bringing it back to New York and reinvesting those profits after we paid our taxes into buying more long-term property in New York City. So we never took a dime out of the business. What we did was we reinvested all the profits into long-term cash flow. Um, then in 2008, we sat back. We literally scoured the entire United States for about 13 to 14 months, and then we no matter where we went, we felt most comfortable in Florida, and we started then we landed in central Orlando, in Orlando area, central Florida, and I don't know, we've probably flipped in that area over 3,000 properties since then, at least, minimal.
Wow.
Yeah, and in addition to keeping, we've got a substantial amount of inventory in condo units and townhomes that we keep for long-term investment in that area as well. Now,
That is
hold on,
so
and that's not to
impressive.
say, and that's the one other thing. And we also went into South Florida, with rather South New Jersey, buying mostly in areas like Brick Township, Point Pleasant, Little Egg Harbor, which is all alongside the East Coast, um, buying in there for long-term investments as well.
So when we're talking about learning the mindset of an investor, I mean, you are an authority in this because I mean, you've gone outside of your arena and literally blew it up. I mean, 1,500 lots a month that you were turning and then taking those profits and reinvesting them in your backyard. I mean, that is the power of leverage if anybody's ever seen it. So let me ask you this, right? Because I think it's important that those of us who are investors always keep ourselves in check, and obviously those of us that are aspiring to be investors, or those of us that are aspiring to work with investors. I mean, it's a full rounded world. What does someone like Dan Borrero, who's a mega player at this point, right? And I say that with a lot of respect and admiration. What do you how do you decide to work with a realtor? Because I know I've got, you know, people here that have been in my real estate class from also New York and other areas, and some of my agents and friends that are joining here today. So what is that mindset? What do you look for in choosing who you want to work with, who you want to play with?
So and again, I don't want to. I'm trying to think. How do I? As you were asking me the question, I'm trying to think in my mind. How do I verbalize this without insulting the profession? Um, but I really don't know how to say it, so I'll be
We're
blunt.
all grown up, so just let us
Okay,
have it. We're tough lions in this conversation here. We want the
I
truth. The
I
truth
would
shall
say
set us
not
free.
99% of the realtors I come across are not worthy of of having that title, realtor. I think they do a disservice to the license and to the name and the profession. I would say maybe 1 to 2% of the individuals I meet have the caliber, the professionalism to actually be successful at this game. What do I look for in a realtor? I don't want excuses. I
Mm.
hate excuses. And if I've got to call you 2 to 3 times to get a response or to get an answer, you're done. I don't want. I want a realtor that knows how to sell. And I'm not talking about selling the property because I could set up a real. I I set up my properties that a realtor doesn't have to do much to sell. So when I give them my property to sell, it's not it's not difficult to sell it. It's the easiest part of dealing with us, with my brother and I, because he's my partner, David. Um, the hardest part is getting the property. And the way to get that property is to sell the number. So I want a realtor that's constantly selling. not only selling the property, not only able to sell the property when I give it back to them to sell it for me, but I want a realtor that's selling the idea of selling to me, to Dan Borrero, selling to USA Land Ventures, selling to DB Land Investments. That's the name of the company. Selling to Dave Borrero, my partner, right? Because what they're selling when they're selling to us, although they're selling at a lesser price point, they're selling a convenience that has a value. So when I come in to buy the property, I'm not coming in with any inspections. I'm not coming in with any contingencies. I'm not coming in with a mortgage. I'm closing as soon as title's ready. So all that has a value to it. And if they're not able to sell that value, I don't need them. I really don't need them. I don't need a realtor that's going to tell me, well, that number is way too low compared to the market. Well, then you know what? You're not the realtor for me, right? Because at the end of the day, this all comes down to a numbers game. And, the harder you work, the more money you make. The person who's thinking outside the box on how to sell that idea is the person I want. The person who's not going to give me any excuses about working on Sundays and Saturdays and picking up the phone at 9 o'clock at night or picking up my phone call at 7 in the morning. That's the person who I want to work with. I don't want excuses. Um, I hope I didn't come out too harsh. But
No,
that's the reality of the business.
and that's the thing. The thing is, we need to know that mindset of an investor, because everybody wants and likes the sexiness, right? The luxury of saying, "Oh, I work with investors," but you got to know your game. You got to know what the investor is thinking about. Now, do you so what do you say to someone that maybe hasn't worked with an investor before? You're the first one, but they're on point. They're A game.
I
They're
love it.
willing.
I'll teach you the whole game, and I've done it. I've done it. I had two realtors. One was 26 years old. The other one was 25 years old. One was only in the business for 6 months. The other one was in the business for 3 months, and within a year and a half, they were both making about $350,000 a year each, just with me. I was their only client. But they had put in enough. They put in so many offers in that it developed a pipeline, right? So yeah, we weren't getting. Maybe you get out maybe 10. You get 10 contracts back on every 100, let's say, right? But they sent out 100 offers, but they took it a step further, right? They would send out the offers. Let's say if it's a property that was, it was a HUD property or an FHA property that we were buying from the bank, or if we were buying it through a short sale. One of them compiled a list of every single HUD and FHA property separately, right? That we bought from those identities and sent it to them. Dates, addresses, MLS listings, everything. So to show that asset manager, Dan Borrero is going to actually close on this, right?
Mhm.
So although she couldn't speak to the asset manager, rather it was a he, although he couldn't speak to the asset manager, he was able to get his point across with the paperwork he sent with the offer. And it was all in perfect condition. There was nothing missing. Everything was in order. So it made it easier for that asset manager to look at our paperwork and say, yeah, I want to work with these guys. And then it gets to the point where a lot of them actually know. They don't know us personally, but they know the company and they know that we're going to actually close. You'd be surprised how many asset managers will turn down a higher amount to take our offer because it's easy, especially when it comes to the last quarter of the year. So that's the other thing I look for. I want a realtor that when everyone else is vacationing, they're working. So I'll give you an example. I get most of my offers accepted from November, from Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, to December 31st. I would say 70 to 80% of the properties that we acquire are acquired during that time period because all the other realtors are out enjoying the holidays or preparing for the holidays. The other majority that I get is during the summer months, the months of July and August, especially the end of August. Why? Because sellers aren't getting many offers because a lot of realtors are vacationing. I want the realtor that's working when everyone else is vacationing. That's the realtor I look for.
So tell me about the investors that you work with as well, because obviously you you have a very strong, solid circle of investors. When you guys get together and you have these conversations about investing and doubling, tripling your money and your return on investment, what is the common denominator of that mindset that each what can you tell us,
The
the
common
behind the
denominator
scenes?
is that we're all doing what everyone else is unwilling to do. I'll give you an example. Putnam County, Florida. We're moving 1,500 lots a month there, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 lots a month, right? We're moving about 1,000 lots a month wholesale, 500 lots a month retail. Um, the largest real estate broker says to me, I won't mention her name, says to me, how do you guys sell more than all of us combined? And we're all up here already. And I said to her, because I'm willing to do what you guys are unwilling to do. And I'll give you an example. Well, the first time I met her, I walk into the office, my brother and I explain why we're there, what we're looking to do, and what we're looking to buy. I'm coming in there with cash. I want to buy 1,500 lots. I did all my research. I want to buy 1,500 lots. She hands me a map with her
Card.
company name on it, right? That, back then it was, GPS. The GPSs were this big if you wanted to put them in your car, right? Hands me a map and charges me $3 for the map, and then tells me to go find it, because the lots were at the time were maybe $1,500. In her
Mm-hmm.
mind, it wasn't worth it to her, and I guess she thought we were blowing smoke, that we're telling her, look, we want to buy 1,500 lots. That wasn't big enough for her, right? So I walked out of there and I asked my brother, I says, does this woman understand the business she's in? Is she in the business of selling real estate, or is she in the business of selling a map? You know, so yeah, that's what I don't, that's the realtor that I never used. And I got to tell you something. I can't tell you how many times that she's tried to get my business, but I won't
And
use it.
I remember you told me that story, and then you went down the street and you found a guy, right? A
That's
guy
right.
that was,
That's
tell
right.
me that, what did he do right?
Actually, he wasn't even a realtor. Do you know what he was? Just happened to live in the neighborhood. We saw him outside. We stopped and we talked to him. He said, yeah, I got a lot of people around here though. He was a good old boy. He knew everybody there. He said, I got a lot of people who want to sell. I said, I'll pay you $500 a lot for every property you get me. The guy brought me 1,000 lots in a matter of a month. So, here's a guy that doesn't even have a license, and he understood the business more than she did.
Right.
So, because this is a very simple business. I tell everybody the same thing. Don't overcomplicate it. Just educate yourself and be willing to work harder than everyone else. And then lastly, think outside the box. Um, you know, I get asked a question like, what do I do during the course of my day? I mean, during the course of my day, I have multiple hats on, right? And it all
Hmm.
depends on when you call me. So, you may call me at a time where I have a broom in my hand. I'm the maintenance guy, right? You may call me when I'm in the middle of negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal. I'm the CEO of a big company at that point, right? You may call me when I'm in the middle of uh, putting up a new video or discussing with my video editor the changes I want him done. I'm the head of marketing at that point, right? Um, it all depends what time you call me. But the one thing I make sure I do is I educate myself a minimum of 1 hour to 2 hours a day. I constantly am reading on where the market is going. I'm constantly reading on anything that makes sense to so that it gives me an idea or leverage or a leg up on my competition. Where am I going to go and invest next before everyone else knows about it? I don't want to be the sheep following the shepherd. I want to be the shepherd. And the only way to do that is to educate yourself. And I don't care what side of the business you're in, especially in this business. If you're not educating yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything for me. So Lucy, for instance, when I went out there, she did all the, and I learned this from you, Lucy. All right. You educated yourself so well that there wasn't a question I asked you, and you convinced me through your education, what you educated yourself with, why it was so good that I should buy there. So I want a realtor that's going to tell me what's coming, why it's coming, and how it's going to affect the area. And to do that, you have to educate yourself.
That's called product knowledge.
That's right. That's right.
So how much product knowledge do you want a realtor to have that you are willing to let's just say be loyal to, that you're willing to commit to, that you're willing to trust, that you're willing to know, like, and trust? How much product knowledge, how important is product knowledge to an investor, the mindset of an investor?
So I need them to know enough to get me interested, and then after that, I'm going to do my own. I'm going to do my own research to confirm, and I'll beat the living hell out of a dead horse with the research. And you know that, you know my personality already in reference to
Mhm.
that, right? So at that point, it's a matter of just, can you sell? Can you sell my offer? Can you sell my property? Can you sell the idea of selling to me? That's everything is sale. Let me just see something. Hold up. Okay, guys, I'm not sure if you can read this. You can see this. Have you guys read this book?
Mm. Way of the Wolf.
Yeah. If you haven't, I would say you need to get that book ASAP. Um, I read the book. I've actually read it 3 times. It's by Jordan Belfort, Way of the Wolf. This book here basically goes through a straight line system. It's like it's a 15 process step. Then I realized that I was actually doing 8 to 9 of those steps already in my repertoire when I'm selling. And it's about looping back. If you guys read this book, you should probably read it 2 to 3 times. It's an exceptional book. I don't personally like the person who wrote it as a person, um, but I was impressed how he was able to take something that comes natural to him and put it down onto paper so that we could understand it. Um, the other book I would tell you to read, and this is a really old book, if you want to understand a real estate investor's mentality, read this book here. Um, Incredible book. You can get this on Amazon for like maybe $10. It's a book that I made every single one of my kids read. I encourage everybody that works for me to read it. It's called The Millionaire Mind by Thomas J. Stanley. And again, it's only like $10 that you can get this. And then I'll give you one more. And I wasn't intending to do this, but since they're here, and I do a lot of reading. Um, this one here, this is the Richest Man in Babylon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure you guys have heard of it, George Clason. You
Uh-huh.
can get this on Amazon for $5. It's an extremely easy book to read. And if you could read those second 2 books, you'll definitely understand the mind of a real estate investor.
So so here are people that are listening to the depth of what an investor who plays in the big arena of the New York City, the capital of the world, right? What are some of the challenges that you deal with, and how do you face that fear factor? Because we all go through it, right? We all
So
feel it.
the fear factor, all right, I'm not gonna lie to you. To this day, I still get that. Well, it depends on the magnitude of the deal. So,
Right. You
so if
gotta
I'm
hear it, because here's the thing.
in,
We are always looking for that magic bullet. We're always looking for that magic formula of, I don't want to feel scared, so give it to us. We want to hear
so
it from you, someone
the,
that's
the
done
way
it.
I
So,
the way I get over my fear factor, and I'm not gonna kid you, to this day, I still use it, is I look for every reason why I should not invest in that property. I come at it from the back end of it, from the pessimist side. I look at every property. Why should I not buy that property? What is the downfalls with that property? And if after I like look for every single reason why I shouldn't buy it, and it still looks good, and my gut still feels good about it, because every time I've gone against my gut, even though it looks good on paper, I don't do so well on it. But there's times I follow my gut, even though it doesn't look as good on paper, and I do extremely well on it, right? So it's a combination of both. But the gut feeling comes from experience. So for if you're a new real estate investor, do not follow your gut, whatever you do, and do not get emotionally involved, because you got to go strictly by the numbers. So I have a sheet that I go by, right? And I fill out this sheet, the analyzation sheet, and and to be honest with you, Lucy, I don't even really I give it to people who ask me for it. But it's all in my mind already. So I take a piece of scrap paper, and within 2 to 3 minutes, I know whether it's a deal that I should further look into, right?
mhm.
Um, so the biggest thing is I look for every reason why I shouldn't buy it. And as a result of me looking for every reason why I shouldn't buy it, I'm doing all my research and educating myself. So I get over the fear factor because I've done all my due diligence. So I feel comfortable with the decision that I'm making. And that's how I get over my fear factor, including having gone and spoken to people like yourself and participated, not being as a speaker, but as a person listening, like everyone else is right now, listening to people who have done it, right? So it's continuously educating yourself, and that's how you get over the fear.
So I want to encourage the people that are joining us here today to ask, ask your questions. And while they do that, and I'll read them here on the chat. I think it is so phenomenal to hear it straight from someone that, like you said, I mean, I watch you, I've known you for many, many, many years, and you know, you go from being the CEO to picking up the trash to to sweeping to carrying and hauling out the garbage to educating yourself to running your analysis on your investments. I'm sure to walking you know the streets of New York or Florida, wherever you're investing, and doing your due diligence. um, what are some of the things that you would tell the people that are here right now? How do you how do you approach an investor? How do you approach an investor that you want to start serving? What would be those three most important things that we need to have in mind when we are setting out to serving an investor?
And I'm gonna that's an open-end question, right? So if you want to get me interested in in your part of the state that I have no investments in, you need to give me a reason why. You need to tell me something that I don't already know that's coming. If you can't do that, I don't need you, right? Um, you need to convince me that you're gonna be my eyes, my ears, and my feet on the ground. You're gonna, and I'll give you an example. So I have realtors in Florida. Uh, one of them, he one time he says to he says to me, "Call me Alice," and I said, "What do you mean call you Alice? Why would I call you Alice?" And he says, "Because you got me vacuuming this apartment like if I was Alice from the Brady Bunch, right?" So my realtors, when they go into my condos or they're going into my townhomes or they're going into homes that we're flipping, they're pulling out their vacuum cleaners. Why? Because people are walking in the bedroom rugs, right? And you have the feet, right? And I want those lines, the vacuum cleaner lines, looking straight. And I want all the doors closed. So when they open up the door, when the realtors bring in from the MLS that saw it on the MLS is bringing their clients, it's going to get that wow factor, right? I want everything looking crisp. I want that when they walking up the stair up to the front door, that there's no leaves or anything on the walkway, right? Because everything's power wash, everything looks brand new, everything's clean. So I want that realtor to stop by that property if they're in the area. Let me check and make sure the last realtor closed all the doors or put down the toilet seat, or make sure that all the lights were off, or let me sweep the front. I want that realtor that's willing to do that those little things, because that's what makes the difference, if that makes sense.
The extra. The
Yes.
extra is what makes all of us extraordinary.
Right.
And that's so true. I mean, we want the extra. And I think that we need to realize that when we establish a relationship with an investor, just like the investor is looking for a long term return, right? Like Dan, you heard Dan say, my biggest profits come from my long term investments. We have to look at our investors as a long term investment as well. Because I mean, it's been years and years that Dan and I have just followed each other, always been there. If he needs me, he knows where to find me. If I've been to New York, we've met up, we've spoken, and I think, like you said, it's those extras. So it's a mindset of ours as well. That's why I love this conversation, because you know what? If anybody on this call wants to become a great investor like Dan, you need to know what you're looking for in a realtor. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting your time as well. Right, Dan?
Yeah, look, I don't need a realtor to be as experienced as I need them to be as willing to work harder and think outside the box and do all the little detail stuff. So another thing, if you want to deal especially with out of town real estate investors, get yourself a decent phone and FaceTime them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the job's going on at the time. Let me go walk over there. You call me up. You say, listen, I'm in the area. Do you want to see how the job's going? Absolutely. And now they're working not only as my realtor, but they're working as my expediter, right? They're working as that person who is keeping track of my investment. They're interested in my investment. They're interested in my financial well-being because all that helps them as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the little things like that, right? I have my rental agents. We manage our own properties, but I give it to them to rent. So they'll go and when somebody moves out, I have them go put the lockbox on, a couple of days before they're moving out. They go in once, and I have the tenant put the key in the lockbox, and then they go and they do my punch list. This is what you're going to have to deduct for. And they send me the pictures. So now I deduct that from their security deposits. I immediately set up my contractors, and then they go back after my contractors are done and they send me a punch list making sure that the contractors did what they were supposed to have done, if with the pictures, if something's wrong. Now, is it worth doing that for rental money? Probably not. But how many units have they bought and sold for me as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? I have realtors that have bought and sold hundreds of units for me. So it's a long term. I look at investing in real estate. It's not just investing on the actual property, but it's also investing in people. So because I took the time out to train them as to how we work, and they took the time out to learn how we work, it's a long-term relationship that everyone continuously makes money with.
Right. And I can say that once you have built, and I've been very fortunate to have good relationships with my investors, and you especially, and Alex, and it's a good feeling when you know that you have done a good job, and whenever you or Alex or your brother reach out to me, it's like I'm on it, because you're working with someone that not only values what you're doing but appreciates it,
Right.
and you guys always show that. We have a question here about what has been your biggest and most profitable deal that you've done.
Um, so the biggest deal, okay, so I have properties, if I sold today, would probably be my biggest deals. Um, but I'm not selling them. So my New York properties, even in this pandemic, although the rents are going down and we have lost value, I still wouldn't sell them because this is going to come back. And that's my ultimate cash flow. So again, do I have properties that are worth over 6, 7 million? Yes. Would I sell them? No. So I'm not going to count that as a transaction because it's not done. But the biggest deal is probably 1.8 million. And I'll give you a quick story on that, and it's going to refer back to education. So when we were first doing the first year, we were doing like tons and tons of land sales. I ended up paying 59% of my profits in taxes, literally 60%. Uh,
Wow.
and I was so angry because my accountant kept telling me, we have to sit down, we have to come up with a plan. But I was so preoccupied with making money, I never took the time out to educate myself with my accountant on how to keep my money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So as a result of that, I swore that would never happen to me again. And because I have a degree, I was able to take continuous ed classes at the local community colleges that they give to actual accountants that they when they're supposed to get their continuous ed credits. Um, so I was able to come back now and challenge my accountant. And then when I hired a tax attorney, and I was able to challenge him as well with educated questions. And sometimes what the vehicle that I was bringing them on how to save me taxes, they would tell me you can't do it because of this, and this. However, you could do this if we restructure this company to do that, right? There's always a few steps. So what happened was with the 1.8, I had an offer for $200,000 more on that property. But because that $200,000 offer person did not let me structure the deal on paper the way I needed to structure it so I could save money on taxes, I took the offer for $200,000 less, but I
Mm.
still profited $250,000 more than if I would have taken the $200,000 more on the offer.
Because
So
of the way you were able to structure it.
precisely, and I would have never known how to structure it if I didn't take the time out to educate myself.
And that leads me to a great point, right? Everybody wants to be an investor. Everybody wants to make money, invest. What is what is the most important thing for anyone wanting to step out, right? And and I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to hear from you. What would you say is the number one thing someone needs to do before they get into making the big bucks? What do you need to have in place? What do you need to prepare for?
So if you two things, education, and I'm not talking about academia education. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about picking up publications, picking up, and the internet makes it so easy.
Hmm.
Let me see something. I was just reading something yesterday. You guys should definitely read this. Give me one second. I don't have it, but it came out from the Federal Reserves. It came out in September, and it was an article written by one of the vice presidents at the Federal Reserve on how they expect the market to contract on the real estate side. And they went so far as to mention how, for instance, Chase Bank has been putting aside billions of dollars. It just in the last quarter put $4.5 billion for bad automobile debt, credit card debt, and housing debt. They're talking about, how 4%, it's 4%, an additional 4% last quarter are delinquent on their mortgages more than 90 days. But if I had not taken the time out and read other publications, I would have never known that they're including the forbearance on that,
Mm,
right? And the forbearance, even though they're telling people you don't have to pay your loan for the next 180 days or next 90 days, and we're not going to hold, it's not going to ruin your credit, even though it's still going on your credit, which is a lie, right? They're
mm-hmm.
including that in there, which they're really not late because they just push that to the back of the loan.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying? So what's the real number? Is it really 4% higher or is it really only 3% higher? Are they trying to scare the public? And if there is, why? So again, these are the questions I'm asking myself when I'm reading these articles. So yes, educate yourself, financially prepare for the opportunity, and set yourself in a position that, especially with your family life, and your spouse, that they understand that you are not going to be home at 6 o'clock having dinner at the table with them every day. That you may not even be in bed with them at 11 o'clock watching the 11 o'clock news because you have a goal, and that goal means you got to sacrifice time. So those are the three major things I would do. Again, educate yourself, financially prepare yourself, in addition to making sure that your family life at home is going to be supportive of what you're trying to do.
That's awesome. So we have a question here. Dan, how do I find new investors to pitch um, and to sell my game plan to? Jesse wants to know how does he get in front of more investors to tell them about the great things we have here?
Believe
Yes.
it or not, Jesse, social media, man, it's
Oh,
all
I'm
it's
great at that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I mean, look, uh, one of the things you could do is go to the tax records, see who the hell's been buying. If you see a corporate and an LLC, they're investors. You know, immediately skip trace them, find out how to contact them, and put yourself in front of that person because they're active. You know that they're active in your area. So it's not, you don't have to sell them on the idea of being active in your area. You now need to sell them on the idea of how you could bring them more profits,
Hmm.
and why they should be going with you rather than anyone else.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, Dan, you would agree with me that if we put ourselves in the shoes of that investor and say, how can I bring that person a higher return in the way that I structure whatever it is that I want to sell, right? They're going to listen to us.
Oh yes,
You know?
again, but you don't know how they think unless you actually take the time out to learn how they think. And I just gave
Right.
you simple books that you could read. I think you could even get those on audio, to be honest with you, for like $5 or something like that. Put it when you're driving your car. You're in a car sitting in traffic. Listen to it.
So to summarize,
Send it.
the investor's
Yeah,
mindset
go.
is don't give me no excuses. Show me that you're willing. I don't care if you don't know everything, right? I'll figure out my own numbers, but show me that you're willing. Go the extra mile, man. Go the extra mile. Be hungry. Show me that you want to work with me. Answer the phone.
Oh my God.
Answer the phone.
Oh,
You know,
that's my biggest pet
respond.
peeve. Yes, that's my
Respond, even
biggest
if
pet.
it's with an auto text, on the other line, we'll call you right back. Show me that there's the lights are on and somebody's there, when I want to talk to you. And we have another question. How do you see the future of real estate in the next year nationally? Luisa wants to know that's the $1 million question. What's gonna happen in the next year?
Luisa, if I had that crystal ball, I'd be keeping that tight to my chest. Um, Having said that, I truly believe, and it really doesn't matter who wins this election, we're coming into a recession.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all the signs are there.
Yep.
How deep of that recession, it all depends on how the government responds. Um, I truly believe we would have been in that recession already, and I had already. My brother and I, we literally sold off in the beginning of 2000, between the end of 2019 to the end of, rather, at the end of 2018 to the end of 2019, we sold off 50% of our inventory in Florida, because we had made so much money. Because remember, we were buying these units. I was buying units in 2009 in complexes for $15,000 that was selling, before the boom busted, for 300, 290, 295. So we made so much money on equity. We started releasing, getting rid of those properties, because I felt the market was going to start leveling off, and it did. And I wanted to be financially prepared. I wanted to be debt free, and I wanted to have a lot of cash to jump back in when the recession hit again.
Right.
Having said that, and this goes back to educating yourself, this goes back to preparing yourself, right? Having said that, I thought this recession would have hit already, for multiple reasons, which I won't go into because that'll take us another hour. But I think I didn't account for Corona. And I didn't account that the government was going to be putting out $600 a week to all these people that were unemployed. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the reality is that slowed down this recession. If they don't come out with a relief package for the common folk person, you're going to see a serious contraction in the market, and it'll be a lot worse than if they do. But you're going to see it anyway. You'll start seeing it probably around February, and then at the end of March, you'll start to see a bigger sign of it. You'll really see it, again, all depending on what the government does, um, probably around June or July. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I don't wish harm on anyone, financial harm. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurs like myself, and including all you guys, because you guys are all self-employed, right? We are the people that is going to save this economy. The same way we saved it, realtors and investors saved this economy as a result of the boom of 2008, as a result of bad decisions on Wall Street. It's us right here, the entrepreneurs, that are going to save this economy. And the opportunities are going to present themselves. I don't think it's going to be the bloodbath it was from 2008, because the banks have learned a lot since.
Yes.
The other thing is there's more money in properties than there were back then. So there were people who put 20, 15, 20, anywhere between 10 and 25% down. Then it's not going to be as easy to walk away from the property when you own that much money. So I don't think it's going to be the bloodbath that it was then, but I do believe there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And the opportunities are going to be for all those realtors. So, like in 2008, and Lucy, you'll be my witness to this. How many realtors walked away from the business?
Oh my gosh. I had an office of 120 realtors and I ended up with 19. Our local association had 14,000 realtors. That's the Fort Myers Cape Coral Realtor Association, and we ended below 3,000.
Okay. Well, you know who are my most? There's two categories of my most productive realtors. You know who they are? The people
Mhm.
that either stuck it out in 2008 or came into the business right after 2008, like 2009, 2010. When before 2008, all you had to do was breathe and you could sell a house, right?
Right. Yeah, we were writing contracts on the hood of our cars.
Precisely. Now, and to this, and to some extent, that's pretty much the case right now too. But the realtors that actually stuck it out, and the realtors that got into the game when it was bad, when it turned good, they were so much further ahead with experience and knowing how to sell the offer, knowing how to sell the property, knowing when to come in for the kill, knowing when to present the contract and say no more negotiating. Everything about it, they learned so much during the hard times that when the easy times came and the realtors were coming in during the easy times, they were never going to be able to catch up to those guys.
Well, we're living a perfect example. I know that you and I connected once again at this level, the social media
Right.
storm, taking social media by storm because of the pandemic.
That's right.
And you were watching what I was doing and I was watching what you were doing. And when we spoke in April, you shared with me and you said, Lucy, I literally just started to position myself in social media because I want to educate, because I want to give back, because I want to coach, I want to teach people to do what I've been doing for so many years. And I wasn't sure how this was going to work out, but it's monetizing itself for me. And I said to you, Dan, because of the pandemic, I decided I was not going to sit and wait. I've been pushing harder than ever before to stay at the forefront of what I'm doing. And it's just, and I think that's what we need to understand, that those of us, and I was giving my agents this example about a surfer. Surfer goes out and finds the wave, but then you got to know where to position yourself within the wave. I mean, I want to be at the top of the wave, and that's why we've been, you know,
I
pushing
actually
hard.
watched that video when you said that. I thought that was actually a really good analogy. But as
Yeah, and
always, you always come out with really good ones, Lucy. I'm not gonna lie to you, I steal some of them from you.
thank you. So going back to the mindset of an investor, what are the daily challenges that you deal with, that an investor deals with?
Wow. Um, Dealing with incompetence is my biggest pet peeve. Um, I can't if I have to deal with incompetence early in the morning, that individual he slides by. But when I can deal with with the incompetence around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, oh no, it gets a little rough. And at 3 o'clock, there's no mercy. It's like so.
Hey guys, we might as well know what we're getting ourselves into, because that's the
you,
thing that we
you know,
need to know. We need to know.
it's was I do everything possible to avoid any issues. And if you don't respond or you choose to do your job at the time of the closing, that's not my problem. I'm pushing that back on you. And by the way, you'll never see a deal from me ever again. So if anyone comes to me, so here they in Jersey they pay the title company. They pay the title insurance, they pay the title search, unlike in Florida. So if I see a contract that comes in with that title company's name, I won't accept that contract from that point,
Right. Because you're
right?
going to keep that in mind.
Precisely. So yeah, the my biggest challenge is dealing with incompetence because I'm dealing with incompetence on a daily basis. I'm dealing with tenants that are trying to get away without paying rent. And I don't really have that problem, but I'm getting it more often than I used to get it because of the situation we have and now with COVID. I'm dealing with contractors that are trying to, go on the cheap or take shortcuts. I'm dealing with, I don't have to tell you, I'm dealing with, the other person who's trying to negotiate against me on a deal. And then all at the same time trying to figure out what's their motivation. Because if you want to negotiate in good faith and you want to be on the winning side of that negotiation, what you should always find out is what's their motivation on the other side of the table. Why do they want to sell? How anxious are they to sell, and do they need to sell? And vice versa on the same side of buying. So yeah, it's incompetence.
Well, this has been an amazing hour. And I want to respect your time. I know you've had a long day, and you're nonstop. You're out there killing it. You're out there, you know, just doing your thing with amazing skill and craftsmanship. And I love that. I love to watch that. I'm a doer, and I love to surround myself with doers. And I want to thank everyone that's been on this meeting today, because I know some way, somehow within all of us, there's that segment, there is that piece of Dan Borrero. We want to be the next Dan Borrero.
Listen, it's
And
I tell people, Lucy, if I could do this, anybody could do this. In this business, what I love about this business is doesn't matter your educational background. In this business, doesn't matter the color of your skin or the religion that you have that you practice. It's all about how hard are you willing to work, how much are you willing to educate yourself, how much are you willing to think outside the box, and having the fortitude to stay focused and win the game. That's and that's America. That's the United States of America. That's we can't do this in many other countries, and that's why I love this business, because precisely because of that. None of those things matter. It's all about how can you make me money, and that's what matters to me, and any other investor for that sake.
you are the epitome of the American dream made a reality. I mean,
Oh,
someone
thank you.
that overcame your personal challenges, and I'm sure many other challenges, and you're just an inspiration, Dan. So on behalf of everyone on this call and everyone that's going to be listening to this, because this is going worldwide, thank you so much. I am honored to be your friend, to be able to be your mentor, and now you are my mentor, and this is just the
I
power
don't
of
know about me being your mentor, Lucy. I still got to catch up to you a little bit.
Well, let me tell you, you put the fire under me when I saw you doing all that stuff on Instagram. So thank you so much. Let's blow it up for Dan. Let's all give him a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here, Dan. Thank you, everyone. Get out there and do it. Be in it to win it. You heard it from Dan. We can all make it happen, and we can all have a wonderful life, and then do what he's doing, which is giving it all away. That's the maximum success, is when you can just give it all away.
Yep,
Thank
yep.
you, my friend.
Thank you. Have good night, everyone.